Okay, um, yeah, today was a good day. Um, in terms of studying, I learned quite a bit. There's a new kind of technique in rendering. Well, not new, but something that I'm trying to kind of nail down. And it's kind of like a comic bookish artist approach. I looked at this guy Rafael Garris, and one of his pictures that he did, like an illustration of the Punisher, was really nicely rendered for like a traditional medium, like a 2D traditional medium. Yeah, I think he used a pen and marker pens, right? To shade it. And yeah, the technique he used gave some really nice texture to the materials. So I was trying to kind of draw some of that from his piece, right? And I kind of nailed his process down a little bit. I think so he gets the sketch in, then he overlays kind of rough local values in, which is very similar to the digital process as well, or at least like a very safe digital process. It's not the only process you can use, but it's one that's like recommended as very safe, very reliable. But him doing it in traditional mediums, using a marker that has like a fixed from what it looked like. I was looking at some of the close up like pen strokes that he was making, and it looked as though the pen was staying the same size, like he wasn't switching out sizes. Which kind of gave this like layered effect of the pen strokes, right? And I thought it was really interesting, really aesthetic. So I tried to kind of replicate that in some little shading studies. To varied success. I think the way he did the clothes, the way he kind of rendered the cloth, it's very dark, a lot of it, but kind of underneath the darkness, you can kind of get a really nice texture and really nice shapes and very nice silhouette as well. So I kind of messed about with that sketch idea, like how far to go in the sketch. And I think you can definitely go too far, but you also don't want like a bare bones outline silhouette line drawing kind of thing. Just because that won't really lend as much visual interest into the final kind of rendering. Because I like to my ultimate goal, I suppose, is to have a process that kind of flows from one state into another with like a very blurred lines between each stage, right? So if I were to utilize a sketch in the painting, I would want the sketch portion to kind of seamlessly flow into the painting portion. I think that in a lot of great artists' processes, when I watch them paint, you kind of get that vibe, that kind of complete confidence in the process, and as a result of that confidence, it looks seamless. Like the transition from one kind of part of the process into another is seamless, whereas in like a more amateurish kind of painting or drawing, you can definitely see they've had clear stages, right? So they get the line drawing done. And don't get me wrong, I think that great artists can do this as well, but I just think that a kind of mastery and a confidence over the process is and kind of a technical, just like obvious like skill in the process is just very desirable for me. Like for example, I mean, here's an example of someone who doesn't do that at all, but is still a great artist, right? If you look at Evan Amundsen, if you watch him paint, it's a very structured, separate, first step, second step, third step kind of process. Which which obviously leads him to amazing results. Like, his work is insane. But yeah, that kind of flow of process to me really kind of nails a lot of what mastery is. And so obviously one day I want to try and reach that level. In the probably far future. So yeah, I was trying out that kind of process that Rafael Garris was doing. So yeah, I started off with the sketch as always. Then I kind of came in with some like secondary sketch elements, I guess you could call them, like interior folds, that kind of thing. I guess actually that's just all part of the sketch. But then I started adding in the local value, right? And I did that with a relatively thin brush for most of the time, because that's like what a comic book artist would have to do, because he only has his pen on to hand, and you can't just alter the size like you can do in Photoshop. So yeah, I went in with those like smaller brush strokes. I didn't make too many separate brush strokes, just because that would get like murky and kind of confusing very fast. I did sometimes lift my pen up just to get that little bit of like randomness, chaos, I suppose, in the blocking out phase. So I do that, and then I kind of move on to, I guess, rendering. From that point, that's all it really is. I laid in some shadow shapes with a slightly bigger brush, and then yeah, I think the problem with the process is I normally kind of I take too much from the little random brush strokes I make. Like if say I make a mistake and a wrong brush strokes, rather than correcting that, I'll take that and use it as a bookmark, as like a little like signal or something that will kind of influence the painting later on, even if it's like a wrong brush stroke, an incorrect brush stroke, which I need to get in the habit of correcting those mistakes early on in the process. So yeah, that was kind of what I learned about the comic book kind of style of working. And then another image that he did was of Batman that I really, really like, and the way a lot of comic book artists, almost all of them, kind of render their figures and render things in general, is they have very harsh shapes of shadow and light, very dark shadows and very bright lights. And so I was trying to kind of replicate that, but whilst also kind of adding more kind of form to it, because right, if you didn't do that, it would just kind of read more as shapes, even though overall they read as like forms. When you kind of zoom in, they just kind of fall into shape. And so I wanted to kind of indicate form a little bit more. That's why I was adding a local value other than white to the arm I was drawing. It didn't end up very well. I've always struggled with dark shadow values and then how they transition into light. I always think I make the transition too gradual, where if it's like a dark shadow, you can probably assume it's going to be if it's a relatively dark shadow, if there's a high contrast, you can probably assume that the light source is pretty strong, right? So making that gradient of light fall off gradual is kind of not really realistic. So yeah, that's something that I definitely need to study, is the dark shadows on kind of like matte forms, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's basically it. I did a couple of anatomy studies. I really wanted to learn how the neck kind of sat on the kind of traps and chest. I wanted to learn how when the head was moved, how the neck kind of changed shape and how it kind of fitted in with the silhouette and all that kind of thing. But apart from that, Jim was alright. I felt tired as hell because I've been on it for the past few days, really hard. So yeah, I didn't get much. But it was a decent session, you know. I'm not complaining. I found out a new exercise I can do with this cast on. It's Zercher shrugs, and I did them. I used to do them before I had this cast on, but you know, being able to do them again, even with the cast on, is very pleasing. And it's like every new exercise I discover in this like limited stage, right? It's like a blessing. It's amazing to see. Oh wait, I can do this, and then you know, be able to implement that into some kind of program, even if it's only like a leg day program. Anyway, I'm waffling now because I'm very, very tired. I'm like delirious. But yeah, have a good day. Bye.